Two lives shaped by very different struggles. To understand why people find these rumors so easy to believe, it helps to understand who Ellen and Portia actually are, because both of them came from backgrounds defined by real hardship long before they ever met each other. Ellen's road to fame was not a smooth one. She spent years working as a stand-up comedian before building a name for herself on television, and then, in the late 1990s, she made the decision to publicly come out as gay at a moment when doing so in Hollywood came with serious professional risk. She lost work. She faced intense public criticism. For a period, it looked like her career might not recover. Instead of retreating, she rebuilt from the ground up, eventually launching the daytime talk show that would turn her into one of the most recognizable personalities in American television for nearly 2 decades. Portia's story unfolded very differently, but it was no less difficult. Born Amanda Lee Rogers in Australia, she lost her father when she was only 9 years old. As a teenager, she changed her name, reinventing herself before she'd even started her acting career, and moved to Hollywood hoping to make it as a performer. She succeeded, landing memorable roles on shows like Ally McBeal and Arrested Development, but behind that success, she was privately struggling with anorexia and bulimia for years, something she's written about in detail in her own memoir. She's also spoken about the fear she carried for a long time that being open about her sexuality could end the career she'd worked so hard to build. Both women, in other words, spent years learning how to project confidence in public while carrying real pain in private. That shared experience is often cited, including by Portia herself, as part of what drew them together when they eventually became a couple in 2004. It's also, ironically, part of why the public finds it so easy to imagine cracks forming behind their smiles. If they were both so skilled at hiding pain before they met, the thinking goes, maybe they're still doing it now. It's a reasonable instinct, but it isn't evidence. A marriage built in the public eye. Ellen and Portia's relationship became public in 2004, and by 2008, when the California Supreme Court legalized same-sex marriage in the state, they moved quickly to make their relationship official. Ellen proposed at their Los Angeles home, and the two were married that August in an intimate ceremony surrounded by close friends and family. At the time, their wedding wasn't just a personal milestone. For a lot of people watching, especially within the LGBTQ+ community, it became a symbol of a future where relationships like theirs could be legally and publicly recognized. 2 years later, Portia legally changed her name to include DeGeneres, a decision she later described as important to her sense of belonging within the marriage. In the years that followed, the couple built a life around shared causes, particularly animal welfare, opening their home to rescue animals and supporting a number of organizations dedicated to animal protection. They've spoken warmly about each other in interviews for years, with Ellen frequently describing Portia as one of the best things to ever happen to her, and Portia crediting Ellen with helping her feel accepted in a way she hadn't experienced before. None of this erases the fact that they've also faced real professional pressures, some public criticism, and the ordinary strain that comes with a long-term relationship. But it does complicate the narrative that their marriage has been secretly falling apart for a decade while they smiled for cameras. The move that reignited the speculation. In late 2024, Ellen and Portia made headlines again, this time for a decision that had nothing to do with a scandal or a specific controversy. They left the United States and relocated to the English countryside, settling in the Cotswolds. Ellen later explained that the decision followed the 2024 U.S. presidential election, framing the move as a desire for a different pace of life. For Portia, the relocation also offered something personal, more space and time to spend with horses, an interest she has spoken about for years. To a lot of longtime fans, the move looked like exactly what it appeared to be, two people choosing privacy and a quieter lifestyle after decades in the spotlight. But to the tabloid press, it became fresh material. Some outlets speculated that the move was actually a sign of trouble, framing it as evidence that one or both of them wanted distance from their old life, and by extension, distance from each other. Others suggested the relocation was a joint decision meant to protect a marriage that was allegedly under strain. Neither claim has ever been backed by anything beyond anonymous sourcing. The divorce that never happened, inside Ellen DeGeneres and Portia de Rossi's marriage. For nearly 2 decades, tabloids have printed the same headline in a dozen different ways. Ellen DeGeneres and Portia de Rossi are on the verge of splitting up. Every few months, a new story surfaces claiming the marriage is crumbling, that one of them is fed up, that lawyers have been called, that this is finally the end. And every single time, the two of them show up somewhere together, smiling, holding hands, looking exactly like two people who are still very much in love. So what's really going on? Why won't these rumors die? And what does the actual evidence say about the state of their marriage? Let's take a closer look. A rumor mill that never sleeps. If you've followed celebrity gossip for any length of time, you've probably seen a headline claiming Ellen and Portia are getting divorced. It's become something of a running joke among longtime fans because these stories have been circulating in one form or another since as far back as 2016. Tabloid outlets have alleged that Ellen's wealth and success turned her into a difficult person to live with. Others have claimed the couple was secretly living separate lives, or that one of them was planning a quiet exit from the relationship entirely. None of these claims have ever been substantiated. In fact, when asked directly about the divorce chatter years ago, Ellen brushed it off in an interview, explaining that she and Portia were together constantly, that they didn't understand where the rumors came from, and that their affection for each other hadn't changed. That kind of direct denial has repeated itself over and over throughout their marriage, yet somehow the story never seems to go away. Part of the reason these rumors persist is simple. Ellen and Portia are, and have long been, one of the most visible same-sex couples in Hollywood. Their relationship has always carried a symbolic weight far beyond their personal lives, and with that visibility comes constant scrutiny. Every public appearance gets picked apart. Every solo outing without the other becomes proof of trouble. Every slightly less affectionate photo gets read as a sign that something is wrong. It's the same pattern that plays out with countless high-profile couples, but it seems to hit Ellen and Portia with unusual frequency and intensity. There's also the matter of timing. Divorce rumors about the couple tend to spike whenever Ellen is going through a rough patch professionally. When the allegations about a toxic work culture on her talk show became public, speculation about her marriage surged right alongside the criticism of her career. When her Netflix specials failed to fully repair her public image, anonymous sources popped up in tabloid outlets claiming the strain had intensified tension at home. It's a familiar formula in celebrity journalism. When one part of a person's life is under a microscope, outlets often try to extend that scrutiny into their relationships too, whether or not there's any real evidence connecting the two. Where the rumors actually come from. It's worth being honest about the sourcing behind most of these stories because it matters. The overwhelming majority of divorce claims about Ellen and Portia trace back to anonymous insiders quoted in tabloid publications, the kind of sourcing that can't be verified and often can't even be confirmed to exist. These are not statements from Ellen, Portia, their representatives, or anyone with documented access to their personal lives. They're unnamed voices making claims that tabloids are free to print without much accountability if the story later turns out to be false. That doesn't mean every word written about their marriage is fabricated out of thin air. Some of the underlying context is real. Ellen has spoken publicly, in her own words, about how much pressure she felt while running her talk show and how the backlash following the allegations against its workplace culture affected her personally. Portia has also spoken candidly, in her own memoir and in interviews, about the eating disorders she'd battled for years and the insecurities that followed her into adulthood. Those are documented on-the-record struggles that both women have discussed. But there's a significant difference between a public figure acknowledging a personal struggle and a tabloid claiming that struggle is actively destroying their marriage behind closed doors. The first is fact. The second is speculation dressed up to look like fact. This is why it's important to separate what's actually known from what's simply been repeated so many times it starts to feel true. Ellen and Portia have never confirmed marital problems of the scale tabloids describe. They have never announced a separation. There's no filed paperwork, no legal proceeding, no statement from either woman suggesting the relationship is ending. What does exist is a long paper trail of denial of public affection, and of the two of them continuing to build a life together even as the rumors swirl around them. What actually followed the move tells a more grounded story. The couple has continued to share glimpses of their life together publicly, including their expanding collection of animals and their new property, which was reportedly chosen in part to better accommodate Portia's horses. In August of 2025, they marked their 17th wedding anniversary, a milestone that was reported by entertainment outlets at the time, with no indication from either party that anything about their relationship had changed. Around the same period, Ellen shared an affectionate post to Portia, continuing a long pattern of public warmth between the two that has persisted throughout every wave of divorce speculation. Reading between the headlines. If there's one honest takeaway from the last 2 decades of coverage on this couple, it's this: the volume of divorce rumors about Ellen and Portia has never lined up with the actual evidence supporting them. That gap is worth sitting with for a moment because it says something about how celebrity gossip works more broadly. A headline claiming a marriage is falling apart gets far more attention than one confirming a couple is simply still together and reasonably content. Outrage and speculation travel faster than stability does. So even when a relationship holds steady for years, as this one clearly has, the rumor mill keeps manufacturing reasons to suggest otherwise because uncertainty is what keeps people clicking. That's not to say Ellen and Portia's marriage has been free of real challenges. Both women have spoken, in their own words, about periods of personal struggle, professional pressure, and the toll that public scrutiny takes on any relationship. Ellen has acknowledged how difficult the fallout from her show's controversy was for her personally. Portia has been candid about her long recovery from disordered eating and the insecurities that came with feeling overshadowed at times by her wife's fame. Those are real, documented struggles. But documented struggle is not the same thing as documented collapse, and conflating the two is exactly how gossip outlets have kept this narrative alive for the better part of 20 years without a shred of confirmed proof. So, are they actually getting divorced? Based on everything that's actually verifiable, as opposed to what's been repeated in anonymous tabloid sourcing, the answer remains no. Ellen and Portia are still married. They celebrated 17 years together in 2025. They relocated together by choice to build a quieter life. They continue to publicly express affection for each other, and neither has filed for divorce, hinted at separation, or confirmed any of the dramatic claims that have circulated about their relationship over the years. What their story really demonstrates is how persistent a false narrative can become once it takes hold in celebrity media, and how easily speculation can be mistaken for fact simply because it's repeated often enough. Ellen and Portia have weathered public criticism, personal health struggles, career setbacks, and a major life relocation, all while consistently choosing to stay together and stay public about their commitment to each other. Whether or not the rumors ever fully stop is impossible to predict. If the last 2 decades are any indication, they probably won't. But for now, the facts tell a much simpler story than the headlines do. 2 people who met at the wrong time found their way back to each other and have stayed together through nearly everything Hollywood and the tabloid press could throw at them. What do you think has kept their marriage going despite so many years of speculation? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of Hollywood's most talked about relationships, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more stories like this one.